David Cameron was accused of having a brass neck after saying he volunteered at a food bank despite his policies making them necessary. Mr. Cameron presided over the largest increase in food banks in British history. Experts at Oxford University directly linked the increase to his government's punishing welfare reforms. When he left office in 2016, food bank usage had increased by 1,854% since he became Prime Minister in 2010. In Cameron's final year, the Trussell Trust handed out more than 1.2 million food parcels, 443,421 of them to children. Labour's deputy leader Angela Rayner said, "David Cameron talks about visiting a food bank like it's a nice day out." In one of the richest countries in the world, people are reliant on food banks because of the political choices he made. As the architect of austerity, I can't believe he had the brass neck. Asked about his lockdown on Times Radio, Mr. Cameron said, "I was at our house in Oxfordshire with my wife and children. My wife was battling hard to save and promote her fashion business. I was working less than that. And so I cooked all the meals. I do my best to keep the place provisioned, a bit of homeschooling, but that wasn't my strong point. And I worked for the Chipping Norton Food Bank actually 1 or 2 days a week, which was great to do something to help people who were really isolated and stuck at home." Close quote. The Oxford study found that benefit freezes and the rollout of welfare changes such as universal credit and cuts to disability payments drove up food bank usage under Mr. Cameron. The report's lead author Rachel Loopstra said at the time, "These are the same groups that have been, and continue to be, hit hardest by welfare reform, such as loss of disability entitlements, increased conditionality and sanctions, the benefit cap, and reductions in tax credits." Our observation that these groups are disproportionately needing help from food banks is unlikely to be a coincidence. Close quote. There is no centrally kept record of food banks in the UK, but estimates suggest that in 2009 there were approximately 250 across the UK. There are now believed to be over 2,000. Quizzed in 2015 about the rising numbers of hungry Brits heading to food banks, Mr. Cameron said, "Obviously there has been an increase in food bank use. That's partly because of, the difficulties we have faced as a country. It's also because we changed the rules. The previous government didn't allow jobcentres to advertise the existence of food banks." Close quote. The Trussell Trust said advertising accounted for just 5% of the rise. Last year, a damning report by Human Rights Watch said that tens of thousands of families in the United Kingdom were forced to visit food banks as a result of the austerity economics and welfare reforms of Mr. Cameron's government. They warned that the reductions in welfare support year on year meant that the number of people, including families with children going hungry, is rising at an alarming rate and represents a troubling development in the world's fifth largest economy. It comes after Mr. Cameron claimed that austerity placed the UK in a better position to deal with the coronavirus pandemic. Experts have warned that a decade of brutal cuts to the country's public services left the NHS on its knees and the country in a poor state to cope with the pandemic. When it arrived in the spring, Mr. Cameron argues that cuts introduced when he came to power in 2010 did fix the roof when the sun was shining. He added, COVID-19 was the rainy day we had been saving for. Over 41,000 British people have died since the virus hit our shores in March.